All right. Well, I think I'm live. We'll come out of this view and go back into the regular view. So, if anybody's watching, let me know that we are live. I do believe I'm kicking this thing out right now. So, I'll keep an eye on chat and say hello here. Hello. Oh. All right. So, this is episode 25. I started doing this basically the beginning of the year and wanted to try to get in 52 episodes. That's zero chance of happening at this point. I'll probably get to about 26, 28, maybe, depending on the current pattern. That's what it seems like. So 26 or so of these things. But also, December calms down a lot for me. So eyeballs are on December at this point. We're only 4 weeks out. I do love being this time of year because, well, I love and hate. There's two things you have to think about. One is there's just like this accumulated fatigue aspect that comes along with being at this point in the year, in my opinion. And maybe I'm just showing my own weakness or I don't have enough breaks throughout the year. But really, the year starts in it used to be February, March for me, travel wise for Kat and I. Now it's something like, January, early January, mid January, depending on which events we go to. And then take that all the way out until what used to be like late October. It's now early November, mid-November now. I think the last event I'm doing is the third week in November here in a few weeks. So yeah. Oh, that is a red jacket. Yeah, I'm wearing my watch guard jacket. I actually, Bob, it's only because, and I haven't thought about it yet, is I had to stop to go outside and take an extension cord out to where my son's Jeep failed to get bump started because he had missed the coordination of pressing the engine start for one of the fancy engine start buttons while needing to bump start a manual transmission. But also, I had to run out an extension cord and hook up his battery to let his battery die, or it's dying in the process of dying. Anyways, but yeah, so I'm still wearing my jacket. Good call out. It's good to see you, Bob Miller. I love you, man. Yeah, so like I was saying, it's kind of this point of the year where this is the last few weeks. But let's go over kind of what we've done in the last bit. This is the first year I've tracked all of these stats. I mean, I've done it kind of ad hoc before, but not like as stringently as doing it. And what's nice about these episodes is they force me to do that. They force me to actually go and do the counting and color coordination of my calendar, all that fun stuff. In fact, you can kind of see that maybe in this view. If you see all these different colors as I go through the weeks on my calendar, every different color means something as to what I'm actually doing. Red says I'm on stage. Purple says it's something with like I'm sorry, the game for PAX 8, the PAX 8 Studios. Everything has a color. Anyways, yeah, back to the 16th. So last I left y'all, we were on the 16th of the Thursday, October the 16th. It was right after I had gotten back from Dallas. We had driven back from Dallas at that point, or DFW. And anyways, I did have to prep for boot camp. So green on my calendar is prep for some presentation. There's no presentation I do all year that takes more work. And I don't know that there's a equal return, like not just return on investment and time and effort. Those 400 people that we do this for a year, I don't know how much return that is. Dude, Nick Nyberg, hold on, bro. Bro, the beard is getting gray. Man, ain't it though? Ain't it though? It was funny. After I shaved it, it came back with more. But God bless, there is a bunch of gray in this thing. I think some of those grays came from you. I mean, a lot of the beautiful, awesome memories did too. Now, if y'all don't know Nick Nyberg, just wonderful human, brilliantly successful individual, and and funny as hell. Yeah, and Bob had popped out my red jacket. I guess the red jacket really is a hit today. I'll wear the red jacket. No, I tease. Anyways, yeah. So like, I left you guys. I'd just gotten back. I did a cool webinar series. It was a fun webinar, and it's the second time this has happened. I guess third time this has happened where a talk I've done then gets certified somewhere and becomes training that can be used for people for continuing education. So like in this case, it was the Florida Land Title Association. I did my talk about seller impersonation fraud, which is really fun to build. I guess people don't know also, and we'll get into this maybe during this live stream, is like how much time it actually takes to build one of those off the ground completely ground up presentations, including graphics and all that fun stuff. Even Dee knows how to dye it. Don't get me started. I'm not dyeing my beard, man. I'm great with this big, beautiful gray bastard that's coming. Anyways, yeah, so like I did this presentation where I'd stolen a house from a guy and shown the trade craft of how I would accomplish it and all that for a title company. Done it now a few different places. That got certified for talk. And then a talk I did just last week, which we'll get to here in a minute, also was accepted. Also had 2 more trips to Canada in the last few weeks since then. So 16th into that day. Friday went through a lot of boot camp prep, CyberEye's ongoing meetings. I have a standing executive meeting for CyberEyes where Stephen Kellogg is our interim executive. If you're interested in helping in CyberEyes financially as a company, we can make the easy button. If you just want to give a few $100, it's on Patreon. If you want to reach out to us for a deeper kind of donation, we'd love to help. We'd love the help and also to help. Anyways, side tangent. So Friday, CyberEyes a little bit, got some prep for a 19 Nation panel that's coming up. That next week on the 20th, headed out to, I guess, what was my final destination? YYZ. So YYZ is Toronto. Was in Toronto. That was fun. It was fun because I got to do a kind of 2.5, 3 hours of total education at Momentum. And I did a whole new format for the Toronto event, was teaching basically looking at, instead of your successes and saying how well we've done something like a control or a safeguard, looking at how others have died while not properly implementing that safeguard, because it really gives you some ideas of what you could do and compare your own capabilities to. So we do that where we break down modern breaches and then take a look at their causation. Then ended up doing something for Kat's birthday. We celebrate Kat's online birthday in mid-October. And so we took off. I don't do this very often, but I took off almost an entire day. I had a live stream and a couple of other meetings, but almost an entire day to just wander around with friends. Went to a castle with Ashley Cooper and her husband, who was amazingly hilarious, by the way, Ted. So we did that, and that was fun. And then I think came back, did my live stream from the hotel while Kat hung out with everybody downstairs in the hotel lobby. And then we went to a nice dinner. That was awesome, joined by Amanda LaChapelle and a few others that were with us. So it was really fun. Yeah, anyways, that was that day. Then flew back home and then spent 1 day, 2 days, got angry at United again. I don't know if that needs any mention. But then really to the meat of what the next week and then up till now has been, I did have another travel, flew to Vancouver last week, the 28th. And then did a morning speaking. And I enjoyed doing this. Like, when you talk about moving the needle, and Nick Nyberg, if you're still watching, I'm Team Red Suit. God bless Red Suit, John Harden. Maybe next year's color's red. I don't know. We'll go red. I don't know. But yeah, so y'all actually did break my concentration. So one of the things I think that I get to do that is literally moves the needle most, and I was pointing out Nick Nyberg just because, Nick, you do know how to move the needle, man. But one of the things to move the needle most is when I can go as me, speak to an end consumer base on the behalf of an MSP and have that change their hearts and minds to where they then do something that the MSP wants them to do, right? Like, that is legitimately the number one thing that I can do, I think, from just moving the needle, at least the immediacy in right now. And so I got to do this one where it was a company called Investia, up there, that is the end. Think about Edward Jones for the U.S. And I might maybe overly simplifying and maybe even not putting in the right classification, but ultimately financial advisory company that has these affiliated financial advisors. I guess ING Financial Partners would be a better example potentially, if that's still a thing. And anyways, they have these financial advisors or Ameriprise. It doesn't matter. Stop, Matt. Okay, but have these not franchise, but affiliated financial services providers, right? That do investments. Not like an RIA, but more like a Series 7 that holds their license somewhere. But I got to speak to all these partners, and these partners are being presented with the option of moving to this parent organization's email, identity control, identity monitoring plane that the MSP that brought me there is deploying. And I could discuss the things that matter and talk about things that led up to and crafted the understanding that this centralization capability allows for a larger scale, set aside some of the Big Brother nightmare challenges versus the do it myself without anybody that I'm paying at all. And anyways, and so we go through this conversation, and I have a guy literally walk up to me immediately and said, "Hey, listen, you scared the hell out of me." I was like, "That's not my intention. Like, it's just sharing the data set, right? I mean, obviously wanted to move your heart, but I didn't want to scare you. I hope I provided you a solution forward." And anyways, and they're going to like E5 licensing, well managed, with what I would believe is well approached approach to it. And anyways, and so he said, "But I'm going to get to the front of the line right now. I'm moving right now to the front of the line for this migration. I've been putting it off for stupid reasons." And it was just great because I got to literally move the needle on something I genuinely believe in. And anyways, and for the MSP, they then followed back up afterwards and said, "Listen, oh my gosh, we've gotten a lot of people have changed their entire belief of the way we were going about this, and even though the higher fees and bringing us in as a part of this, then they're willing to do it, and it makes sense." And really just like moving the needle, right? Jason Slagle and I have done talks about the problem is that you know a small to mid-sized business spends 6 to 7% of top line revenue on all tech, and it's really hard to pry this or that from those budget spaces and convince them that the value's there and that the trade-offs are worth it, right? And add value to the business. And so it was just a great opportunity in Vancouver, and I think it marks my 8th time or 9th time in Canada this year. Kat's not here to tell me, but she'll probably hit it in the comments. She knows how many, but I believe it's 8 times in Canada. Came back on that Thursday, and then I've just been the whole week boot camp and slide decks and boot camp. Maybe in a few sec, if I have time, I'll share my screen on the new one I'm working on. I built a new one for the one last week too. It was fun. I did 4 stories, these vignettes. I took the concept from 4 Rooms a bit, if you remember that film. But basically, of these kind of somewhat interconnected, but not necessarily, kind of, or even by just characters, things happening in this hotel. Anyways, and I kind of walked through, threat actors using AI to be better at spearfishing at scale, right? And I showed an innate inflow that I'd built with agents that helped you enrich, information about a user. It wasn't all that actually successful, but I believe the process was viable just to show how I would approach this, right? And anyways, then showed how we would use it for good, right? Like, hey, look at all these different rule formats someone has to write to actually hunt, or MDR vendors can scale by having more capabilities of building faster, better rules and interpolating data, asking better questions of things, showcasing a couple of tools that are using LLMs for the purpose of kind of using RAGs to bring up data about things they know very well. Anyways, and just showed 4 well understood stories, I think, of good and bad. The fun part was that I'd named one of them the Crown Jewel Heist. And the interesting part was the Crown Jewel Heist. I said I can't miss this opportunity, so I just took the ladder truck and then anyways, I had my bad guy climbing up the ladder to grab the crown jewels. Anyways, but yeah, building these new talks takes like anywhere from, I mean, if I take out any hyperbole from this, then I would say 10 to like 40 hours, I think. Not including like just shower thought time of cooking on how do I want to tell the story, how do I want to do this in particular. I'll kind of share, I guess I will. Yeah, I'll take just a sec if anybody thinks it's valuable and share. Let me see if I can present this screen, and then I'm going to add, I'll get to watch while the sausage is made, I suppose. Change media. Anyways, go through the stats real quick, and then I'll switch over to my screen and kind of share a new talk. But the point was, there's a lot of my time that goes into just building slides to tell stories the way I exactly want to tell them, the way I want to make the audience laugh, to the audience I'm catering to in some cases, in a lot of cases. But anyways, all right, so 10 more presentations. That brings the year to 165 presentations. That brings us to 64.5 hours of direct education. That 3-hour kind of workshop that I did the other day at Momentum was what I'm counting there for that instead of a presentation. 106 flights. Kat and I've counted, unless we take a vacation or something, or need to make 2 more flights for status next year, that we'll have to do on our own dime. And I guess to be clear, I pay for Kat's flights, or at least Cybermatly LLC pays for Kat's flights, not Pax8, but Pax8 does help with everything else in that regard. 106 flights this year, 8 more. We got 10 more left. That'll be this 116. That includes us going to Orlando next week, or this week, like tomorrow. Gosh bless. I think it's Orlando. Kat would correct me if I'm wrong. But Orlando this week, and then up to Nashville on Friday to speak on a talk that I'm building right now that I'll show before I close this out. And then flying to Atlanta because we're going to drive to Denver on the next trip we do. But flying to Atlanta to go and hang out with Marissa Maldonado and her family, who are all awesome, Carlos and everybody, and then go from there to do our boot camp, which is a big production. I think we're almost full. I don't know if we're completely full yet, but I know we're getting up there. Last 20 or so seats probably. But anyways, that boot camp's going to be awesome. That takes the most work. That's the one I was starting earlier saying the ROI is not there for at least my time. I bet we probably have 150 hours of my time in it. I know Rebecca and Taylor and everybody else and Spencer and Dom and all their own time separate of this, as well as all the vendors and people that are being a part of it. So it's super cool to bring in like this super immersive, real tools, real IT, real domains. I've got real servers built for this that are stupid, as we've seen in our world, and just showing what happens. So anyways, but yeah, so that brings us up to, basically leaving this week and wrapping up the year. And then after that, December, I try not to go anywhere. I try to work on nerdy projects. I try to work on like framework maps. I try to work on CyberEyes. I try to work on, with framework maps, you have this need to get to a certain level of density of vendors that have been through this process to have a mapping of their tools to CIS safeguards, as well as now we're moving that to NIS2. We're doing a lot of research around the NIS2 mapping with Andreas and Mustin Thomas. So just a lot of stuff that I get to dig way deep into and focus on and just put the brain cycles on, I suppose, during December and January until I have to leave at some point to probably go to Code Mash this year. I just really like immersing myself in the developer world right now. It's breaking my brain on some of the things they do. And anyways, I digress. Bring up John Harden says, Team Red Suits need more red suits. Again, maybe next year I'll be buying a new red suit, I suppose. Nick Nyberg, even Diddy knows how to dye it. It's fair. Okay, I think I got all of them. Anyways, all right, cool. So real quick, let me go and say change media. I think I can replace that with a screen share. Look at this. I'm doing it. Chrome tab. No, I think window. And I want this window. And that should do this. Oh, that works. It works enough. I can expand it if we need to see. But like, I go through, and this is kind of the building of the talk. I actually, funny enough, had to add this. This speaker disclaimer because of a Secret Service agent in Colorado in Vail, who I know teasingly, but threatened to arrest me for sharing how to do this with the public. Anyways, it was funny. So now I add this disclaimer every time. The perfect fish. And so this was the scene one of these 4 scenes I was talking about. I introduced Teapot. Teapot is our threat actor, which if you're watching this and you do know, Teapot is a real threat actor. I think he's still in jail in Great Britain. I may be wrong. To that effect. Chris says we need to talk about specific framework mapping this week. I think we can find some time. Yeah, man. I got plenty of time right now, man. Like, just catch me on Thursday or so. Nah, this week's gonna suck, man. But I know we'll get a few minutes together for sure. I know. I fly in only Tuesday night, and then I fly out Thursday at 1:00 to get to Nashville for Friday speaking at 9 a.m. or something. So it's yeah. Anyways, and Christmas. Bob Miller is joking, but he's also not. I'm so bad about holidays, and this maybe talk to me about my problems in life. But I scheduled stuff for like Christmas Eve or something, or like I don't know. I scheduled a meeting. Bob maybe remind me, but for some day around Christmas that was not well received. I was like, okay, you're right. Probably should change that meeting that we're having for this work group. But anyways, and then I already put that one on there. Yes. So he saw I threatened to steal his house. That's what set him off. Fair, no doubt. You know what? It might have been Chester James Reed III that threatened to come after me. But anyways, so Teapot was introduced, and then all of these graphics are me arguing with AI now because that's what we do, and I add a lot of stuff on top. But and then so I explained, that Teapot has a problem. He's new to this industry. He's got, and then I answered that there are LLMs specifically, and I'm just being a bit hyperbolous with this case, but explaining that there are LLMs out there that do help you through that. And then I just showcased, because it was in Canada, that it was actually Canadian Kingpin 12 that first hosted Fraud GPT. Talk about Fraud GPT talked about their capabilities, whether or not I believe them all. I don't necessarily, like undetectable malware. I could also do something where I rehash it, but I don't know, that makes it undetectable. So let's not get into their hyperbole. Anyways, but yeah, this whole talk just kind of went through it, made lots of fun graphics for it, because it was a population that's not technical, right? So this was a very, and they spell self-ascribedly non-technical. You can see my terrible graphics where I cut in teapot into the submarine, because it was just easier than arguing with AI. Talked about OSINT, explained OSINT. I think this is a fun way. If I haven't shown this to you, and I won't take too much more time because I do have back-to-backs today. But this is what I first talked about with Sunil Yu, so there's some attribution there. But talking about AI as it relates to the DIKW pyramid, right? So data, information, knowledge, and wisdom. I then talked about the further up the pyramid you go, the more contextualized it is, right? The more that this has context to that, and that means there's some nuance of understanding how these two variables go together. There's contextualization, or strings of contextualizations, or webs of contextualization start to happen as you get further up the chain to some extent. The complexity also increases when one goes up this pyramid. It's going to be more data points, therefore complexity itself and interdependence mean that would go up. AI and artificial intelligence, at least as it sits today, tries to live in the knowledge layer, right, where it's taking data points and making them into information and then garnering knowledge to some extent out of that information. And anyway, so I use this as a way to talk about it. If my blood pressure was 145/95 and I didn't exercise and I'm 315 pounds and I have a heart rate of 110 and I have a poor diet and I smoke and I drink, those are all data points. Like, those are all just things that I'm collecting and putting on a piece of paper. The information might be, hey, that blood pressure and heart rate are pretty high, bro. Like, this is not a good combo. Those factors combined could cause heart issues, right? These are data points that have become information because we now know that this is what can come from this, from other data sets that have been assimilated and garner points off of, and scientific process, all the things. But drinking and smokes can be contributing factors to heart disease issues. Knowledge says, bro, you may have heart diseases. You may have heart issues. You live an unhealthy lifestyle, right? Whereas wisdom says, lose weight, eat well, quit smoking, drink socially, and exercise, you're going to die young. Like, that's wisdom, is this discerned aspect, I suppose, that comes out. Sorry, I didn't mean to leave you up there, Bob, that whole time. But anyways, yeah, so this is the talk. But to build each of these and to get them the way I want them to hit and to speak about the way I want them to be spoken about, it just takes a lot of time. So then I go on to say that, if I'm talking about spearfishing, data might be Matt's on Facebook. Information might be that he likes motorcycles and apparently carrying pink flags, because I couldn't find a flag. And then he's part of the Midwest Motorcycle Rally Group, and they're having a rally on the 12th. And Matt signed up to be there. That's information that I can say, okay, and Midwest Motorcycle Supply is the #1 supplier for that. The knowledge that can be garnered out of that is Matt's probably going to be at this event. He's also quite likely to accept an email from Midwest Motorcycle Supply, the #1 provider, that says, hey, you're coming to our event on this date with this information. And that means that he's highly likely to click on that by comparison to not. Now, not getting into any of the conversations about click-through rates and all that fun stuff. There's a great talk at GERCON this year about the blanking fish that talked about that the stats are almost always the same under a pen test when they're dealt with this way. Anyway, so I just talk about how AI could make that faster. Sometimes we get freebies. I'll go past that. But that'll make your fish turn into not fishing with a baited hook, but rather fishing with an actually baited hook with the right thing that fish likes. Right. And then the problem is personalization at scale. If you do this once, it takes a lot of work, but then all the others that you send out, it may not find that valuable. And so you have to do this per individual. What about AI and automation using GoFish APIs, N8N? I'm just flying through this, automation plus AI. I should kind of walked through an N8N, a fictional N8N flow of a victim research bot with an OSINT specialist and a dark web hunter as tools with memory, and then explained those selections would be passed on to a message writer and then parsed through some kind of testing module, API call to GoFish to create a one-off campaign so that I can do these targeted kind of one-to-one attacks against people that have a higher fidelity at scale. Now, this wasn't built and tested and functional. I mean, I did use it for this purpose, and it did gather some information, although not always tied to the right human. So God bless hallucinations. But really just showcasing that one could use these types of things to be a faster delivery of this. I'm not saying that there's been this in the wild, but certainly LLMs and automation flows would certainly come to mind if I was trying to operate at scale, which would allow me to have, oh my God, I love flies at scale, and explaining that. So I just kind of talked through a series of these vignettes, I suppose, if you will, um, yeah, for that talk. But it takes a long time to build it. It's one of those where it's fun because you're building a story. Define define drinking socially. Chris, listen, I'll let you define drinking socially, my man. I think you're well within your definitions. I think you're good. But anyways, I digress. Yeah, but anyways, that's the kind of I don't know if it matters to anybody. Again, I like to think this is more for me than for anybody else. But what it takes to build a new talk, um, and convey the message you want and be successful, I think people underappreciate the number of hours that it takes. Now, once you can reuse something, that gets easier by orders of magnitude, right? Now I already know it. I've done it once. I can repeat it. I can do it in a different context. I can play ball with it to change it to what it needs to do, deliver even in the moment. You know what slide's coming. You're not anticipatory in any way. Like, changes a lot. But anyways, thought I'd share. That was it. Yeah, I think other than that, that was pretty much it. Thanks for chiming in, everybody. Nick Nyberg, it's especially great to see you, buddy. I hadn't seen you in a minute. John Harden, same. Can't wait to see you. You're coming on the game on whatever day that is that thing shows up on my calendar and I do things. I think that's Wednesdays. So that's the other thing. Like, not to continue to opine on this, but I don't know what a week is. I think I spent, what does my calendar say? Saturday slide deck started at 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 hours on Saturday the 1st. And then 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.5. So it's that 11.5 hours on Saturday and Sunday of just the slide deck work that I set aside just to literally be there doing slides. Cause I'm very ADHD. And so it's, I have to turn on music. I have to be in the moment. I have to be where I want to be. Everything has to be where I need it to be. I don't know if you saw this camera shot before, but I do have my desk set up in quite the particular way, as one might imagine. Yeah, but yeah, so slide deck. I got another one. I have working with I think Stephen Kellogg for Cyberrise here in just a minute to work on some things we've been needing to nail me down for and get done because I have a lot of access things in my administrative side of me. And then security boot camp working session for 3 hours with people of actually just trying to really get this thing lined out. For the way we deliver the boot camp, and then I'm going to drop, we do a show, if you will, a production, a play, if you will, while we're actually doing live installation of tools, testing of tools, setting up of infrastructure, making decisions to onboard certain things or not onboard certain things. And then day 2, things might go awry. But throughout, we do a CTF. And what that CTF does is we have this giant timeline where we release challenges, release injections, release clues, if you will, and then release challenges that people can solve and compete for some pretty cool prizes. I think we spend about $500 to $600 per prize, at least on the Hack 5 stuff that we buy. And then I know we have had a Beyond ticket in the past. I'm not sure what we have this year, but all of those fun things. And so a lot of that is literally just like a play where you're doing this giant run of show. We have this giant Miro board with all different colors and names, as well as kind of timeline segments, drop-ins, who needs to do what when they're doing it. We get that completely built out by about a week before the show, 3 to 5 days maybe before the show. We rehearse through that, and then everything's tested through systemically that can be tested through systemically. And then we go figure out what doesn't work, what does work, and it's just kind of a long production. So if you're into watching things go chaotic and being part of something that has no real cost to you, boot camp is a blast. And Chris Johnson, I think you're going to be at boot camp. Bob Miller, in some ways, participates in boot camps. Yes, I call all my friends to help me out with things. Chris Johnson's helping out representing GTIA. Bob Miller is helping out because Bob provides a live tabletop exercise from irgame.ai that he uses our characters, our build, our scenario to do a really cool tabletop that we do on day 1 as an organizational group together. You can participate, you can come up on stage, or you can participate by being in the audience and just watching. So it's a fun event. I hope you'll join us if you haven't already signed up. And if you have signed up, enjoy. And I appreciate seeing y'all. And I've got to move on to the next meeting.